What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another podcast, the Mindtality podcast, that is, also known as the Positive Podcast. New week, new start, new video. Let's get it. I'm Rodolfo, I'm your host,
And I'm Eric Oga as your co-host.
and Eric, kick us off. We've kept in contact a little bit more than usual. How was your week this week, sir?
Oh my goodness, it was busy. I flew out to Louisville, Kentucky. I was checking out the Brandeis School of Law, which is one of the law schools I've been accepted to. And what a busy weekend. Let me tell you, there was a jam-packed full of events, sites we were seeing. School was amazing. Yeah, it was just a very, very busy weekend.
That's dope. And how long was the flight again? Just to give us an idea.
Yeah, so it was about a 5-hour flight.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've been on a plane before?
Yes, I've actually been on a plane to Europe, which was 12, 13 hours. That was brutal.
Yeah,
That
that
was
is
very
tough.
brutal.
I haven't been on a plane, I guess, since I was like 2 or 3 when my parents took me somewhere. I would love to go on a plane. I would love
Yeah.
to go on a plane.
I mean, it's really fun. I enjoy the plane itself, but just every time I go in the airport, anytime you're dealing with an airport, it's always can be frustrating. Like even when I was going back, I think they were deciding to board early, and I was lucky that I got there in time because it was I almost didn't take my flight back home to Phoenix. So sometimes it can be very stressful being in an
Oh,
airport.
no doubt, especially with like trying not to lose your bag, which terminal you're going to, stuff like that. I just from what I see, either like on people's Snapchat or on TV shows and movies, and I'm like, dude, um, these airports can be kind of toxic a little bit. I get nervous, and like I said, I haven't really been in the airport
Mhm.
in a long time, but just kind of predicting how I'd do in an airport, not well, I'm sure.
It TSA is kind of intimidating as well.
That's a whole nother. I'm telling you, bro. There's layers to like an airport and its toxicity. Um,
Yeah.
Eric, tell me this. So, I took my son Louis, my dog, my boxer. For those who don't know, I took him to the dog park last week. And that is like a whole different story itself. I don't know, Eric. Do you have a dog yourself?
uh Not personally, but my dad
Mm,
has two dogs and then my
okay.
mom has two dogs.
Okay. So, I don't know if you contemplate or you battle with taking him on a walk or taking him to the dog park. To me, it's like it's more of a struggle than it should be. I know a lot of people don't understand like uh dogs can only do what you allow them to. So, for example, the backyard, that's where they go pee and poop, that's where they play, but only as frequently as you let them out. Um so in this case, I took Louis to the dog park, and he loves the dog park. I've been taking him since he got his first shot, where you're able to play outside.
Hmm.
So he's very dog friendly, very social, very polite. He's not aggressive in any manner. But as I was at the dog park, Eric, there was a super super old couple there. I'm talking about walking slow, very what was it called? Low.
Lethargic.
Is it like agility where they're able to like move around a little bit? You know, you can kind of
Oh,
tell.
agile.
Yeah, they weren't as agile. Like when Mans went to pick up the poop, it was like a slow process. You know, it was
Hmm.
like so. On a serious note, at first I have in here in my notes. At first, it was like this is cute. You know,
Hmm.
here's a nice, cute old couple. They're at the dog park. They're with their golden retriever, of course. That was the first initial thought. And then the second thought was, let's see here. The second thought is I analyzed their movement. I reflected on the reality of that phase that they're in their life. And then let's see here. The third thing, my takeaway was that when I get to that age, Eric, I don't want to have any regrets. For some reason, that was the only thing that I was thinking about is like, I don't want to have any regrets.
Mhm.
And I want to be able to be old and be happy. Um, is it just me, Eric, or do you think like that too? Do you start registering like where you're at in life? Are you on pace to be happy?
Mhm.
For me, I was looking at them and their movement not being up to par and quick. Like to me, I was trying to figure out how can I avoid that. Is it years of yoga? Is it
Mhm.
just me, Eric?
I mean, it always runs across everybody's thoughts is regret, or what happens when you get to that age. Are you always going to be happy and content with the way you've lived your life and the choices you've made, things like that. But you also just got to realize that things happen for reasons, and the way that things turned out, may not have been good at that time, but like when you're looking back at it, because hindsight's always 2020. You realize things happen the way they happen. Um, so what I was always taught is you never want to go to the altar with unsettled business, if that makes sense. When there's debt or regret or things that you wish you would have done that you couldn't have done, or whatever it might be, that you need to fix those things before you go to the altar, before you end up facing who you're facing at the end of your life. Because it's just gonna weigh heavy on your heart, and you can't really do much if you can't go forward if you keep looking back, if that makes sense. And so I try not to stay in constant thought of that, of regret, or maybe things that I could have done differently, just because it'll slow me down and it'll weigh me down because of just of the of how effectful it can be on you. Would you do you kind of agree with that, or?
Yeah, I do. 100%. And that's something that I didn't take into account. That's something that I don't take into account is like, sure, you have an old couple, they look happy, they look like their life's completed, it was like a Tuesday, probably afternoon. They're not working or anything like that. I'm sure they don't have trouble paying bills, and like I said, something I don't take into account is the struggle that they went through to get there. Who knows how many times that husband lost his job, because it was a couple, married couple, and who knows how many times he or she lost their job that put them in a struggle. Who knows if they lost a kid on the way, to being that old. And I just thought, ideally, just like when I see an old person, I think about like completeness, like not they have their life together, but somewhat of like I aspire to be that old and be that happy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I
Mhm.
mean, they seem happy to me at a dog park on a Tuesday afternoon. They're not, in bed or barely waking up. They're
Yeah.
they're out and about, they're moving, they're making it happen. Very slow pace, but they're making it happen. And to me, I was just like, it was comforting a little bit to understand like someday, Eric, we will be that old. And it's hard for us to conceptualize it, but I think it's always good to kind of dip our feet into that reality and use that as motivation. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to be old and think about how I should have went to this or I should have done that.
Yeah, definitely. The Being older is always scary just because there's a lot of uncertainties with what come next. Um, and just as far as being secure and well off, because there's a lot of people that don't have retirement money that they could help pay for life after work. And that is a big thing that I definitely think our generation doesn't realize, is how retirement money works and how important it is to start saving now, as soon as you can, so that when you get to that retirement age, you can retire and you don't have to work until you can't work anymore. And those are some things that, like we're talking about regret, there's a lot of people that I know that have regret not saving at a young age, and now they're having to work longer than they have to. And as life goes on, and I know just as well as anybody, accidents happen, injuries happen, and sometimes you can't work, even though you need to work, uh, because of an injury or whatever it might be. So there's other things that besides like getting old that you need to be preparing for as well.
Yeah, yeah, and like I said, I was just saying it's always good to kind of, I guess, you know me, just reflect, just reflect where you're at, like gauge if you're on track with whatever, um, but just two thoughts here. One is like right now, self-evaluate. Are you on track to be not successful, not even that. Are you on track to be happy with life,
Mhm,
are you are you experiencing any regret? Are you on the track of regret, And kind of just like motivational words for someone, like whoever's listening, is it's not too late. You know when it's too late, Eric? When you're dead, you know? Unless you're dead, there's time,
mhm,
and I refuse to not believe that, if anyone says otherwise, they're lying to you. And
mhm,
I like I said, I always like to kind of jump to the future and just think like, just evaluate like, how am I doing? Am I on track? And then it was just motivating. Like I left the dog park kind of like refreshed, like it's gonna be okay, and I have time. That's the main thing.
mhm.
Is like I have time to really make something of myself, really make it work.
Yeah, happiness is what you get out of it. You
Mhm.
don't always experience happy things around you, but it's what you perceive it as, and you can always pick apart things that could make you happy, and you can't always let negative things get to you, because then you can never be happy. Because I know quite a few people that really focus on negatives, and just in general, their health is bad. And I'm not saying like it's a credit at all to them viewing negatively, but it's been very associated with negative thoughts and perceiving or not being happy. Is somebody whose mental health isn't the greatest, somebody whose physical health isn't the greatest. They it eats at them, and it continuously each day doesn't settle well with them. So it's important to be happy, because happiness accredits to a lot of other things that we may not even realize, like mental health, physical health, well-being, things like that, that are very important to have in life in order to be successful, or even just to live without anxiety, fear, depression, things like that is all credited to being happy. And finding that happiness is the important part, and how you perceive happiness. Like, for example, like that old man may find pure happiness in going to the dog park with his wife on a Tuesday. Like that's his one time to get away and just walk and enjoy time with his wife and play with his dog, whatever you might have it. That might be his little niche that he does that makes him happy. And everybody has their own little thing that they do to make them happy, but you got to find it. And it also changes over time. What makes you happy and what doesn't. But it's important to find that one thing that makes you happy, or a few things, and hold it and cherish it and work on it.
Yeah, that's a good point, and that's what I was kind of trying to touch on. Like, I was trying to touch on the fact that maybe they're that old because they lived a happy life, They sought goals, they sought dreams, and they pursued them, you know?
Mhm,
And I think, as time goes by fast, especially when, you're on the move, like, when you're doing something. So I just wanted to kind of put, like a PTA or a safety warning. It's just like, just be careful what you're doing, because time's going by fast, and don't get consumed in whatever that you get distracted from what makes you happy, whatever that is. Have fun in life, but enjoy life, but also do what you need to do to put yourself in that position to be whatever you want to be, and to do whatever you want to do. Just again, you got to take care of business when it's time to take care of business. So when you're old, it's just nothing but peace, and just prosperity, and I don't know, just seeing them, it was kind of just refreshing to see some old people at the dog park, as weird as that
Hmm.
sounds.
Yeah, it reminded me of this quote. When we were just talking about all this is doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will. I'm gonna say that again. Doubt kills dreams more than failure ever will. And to this day, that quote rings very loud and very true, um, to way life goes. And if you doubt yourself and you don't believe in your ability to be happy or to be successful, then that will more times than not kill your dreams more than failure of you trying to achieve those things ever will.
Yeah, I think failing at something's very powerful because you understand where you're at.
Mhm.
For example, that same week, I think it was the next day, I took Louis for a walk. I was on a roll, Eric, taking Louis out. We just went up to the corner, like really brief. And I noticed a little skateboarder kid, about maybe 12, 13 years old. And if you don't know, I used to skate a lot younger, and I'm pretty decent myself. I recently had an opportunity to bust out a kickflip.
Oh.
Yeah, oh, oh, oh.
Oh.
Yeah. So I went up to the dude, the kid, and he was struggling on the skateboard. He was trying to jump a five stair. In skateboard terms, he was trying to ollie a five stair, and he kept, he would go at a fast pace, jump the stairs, and then kick the board out the way, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And I told him, I was like, have you done that four stair? Because there was a five stair, there was space, and then a four stair. And I was like, you're struggling on a five stair, have you done the four stair before? He's like, yeah, I already have the one on lock. um I'm just doing the five stair, and I made my way up. And I was like, okay. And in my head, I'm thinking, bro, you should be back at the four stair. You know what I'm saying? You should be doing the four stair so much that it's boring,
Mhm,
where you're dying to see a five stair. Excuse me. And this kid had some perseverance. He didn't listen to my advice, of course, because I kind of did mention that, like, hey, you're better off doing the four stair until you master it, and then the five stair. But um my thing is, just looking back, I don't know if it's wisdom or whatever, but I think it's important to, like, don't be concerned about, like, the next stage of your life. Just execute, like, the level that you're on, do what you're capable of doing. And I know this is huge for me because I'm a new college graduate, and the job I have isn't like the dream job, and it's not my last job in this field, but it is a job. It's a start. My point, it's the level that I'm at, and I just have to accept it. But I can't get ahead of myself. I have to kind of
mhm,
touch base. I have to, what's it called? Dot every I and cross every T. I
mhm,
may feel that I'm ready. I may feel I'm capable of more, but in reality, my only concern should be is just like covering all bases.
mhm. You gotta take step by step and see things for the present and not, uh, be too concerned as much about the future. I mean, you always gotta be concerned, but as far as doing what you're doing now, you can't overlook it and dismiss it or, um, just write it off because you need to be able to perform in the now so that you can perform in the then, if that makes sense. Um, but the only way you can do that is taking one things at a time, step by step. Like if I ever have a big essay I have to write, I mean, couple couple pages that I'm writing, I don't look at it as like a bunch of pages to write. I look at it as a bunch of 100-word paragraphs.
Mhm.
So if you like, for example, let's just say it's hypothetically an essay on, I don't know, baseball. Okay. Uh, and I have to write like 4 or 5 pages on baseball. I don't view it as 4 to 5 pages of writing. I view it as 100 words of like, what definition of baseball? Next paragraph. When was baseball invented? Next paragraph. And if you take it 100 words at a time or just whatever your comfort zone is, it seems to go by a lot faster. You seem to be a lot less stressful about like, oh, I have all this to do. and it's easier for your brain to be able to think that way than it is for you to think of it as a I have to think of all these pages to write. And so it's a similar with work and with life, is if you don't look at it like overwhelming task or thing that you need to do right now or within the next 5 years, you can't overwhelm yourself, because then you're just going to become clustered in your head, and you're not going to be able to think properly, and you're not going to be able to perform properly. But if you break it down and you do it step by step, or word by word, paragraph by paragraph, and simplify everything, then that monumentous, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. Monumentous, I don't even know. Task, the big task, we'll leave it at that. We'll skip that word. The big task, it doesn't seem so big anymore.
Yeah.
It seems so easy.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to tell my mans. I was trying to tell little dude, without pulling out the I used to skate back in my day card. I was trying to tell him like break it down, son. You know, like um obviously this five stair is your daddy. Go one step down. Just go to the four stair, make it happen, you know? I was trying to tell him that. I think I literally told him you should try the four stair until it's boring. And it kind of just went right over his head. And what I was trying to get at is what you mentioned earlier was just muscle memory. In reality, you simplified the situation. You're trying to build muscle memory, which basically is your body saying we got this. You know, it's walking your body through A to Z with every task you have, whether it's a page, 2 pages, whether it's whatever it is. You're teaching your body that you're capable of doing it. And so, yes, it may be boring, kind of like the Karate Kid, you know, where he's waxing on, he's waxing off, he's waxing on, and he's bored. His hands are hurting, he's in pain, he's annoyed. But when he gets put to the test, he executes because it was boring to him. It became not boring in the sense of interest, but it was boring in the sense of like the mechanics have been perfected. Like I've done this, I'm done it. I've done it so to the point where I don't even have to say it anymore. I'm just doing it, you know. And I have to remind myself what the movement is. And um and I think the same thing applies to life. You know, I mentioned me with work. It's like, yeah, sure. I think I qualify for a better position, or I have potential to move up or whatever. But in reality, it's like I have to take it as it comes, and I need to do the best that I can with what I'm entrusted in. And if I am trusted with more responsibility, I can't screw it up. You know what I'm saying? That type of idea.
Yeah, if you think about things just by the now, opportunities will present themselves, and I think we've said that in previous podcasts. If you just continue to work and be determined in what you're doing, opportunities will present themselves in due time. You know, when it's ready for you, it'll present itself to you. There's times where people will go ahead of themselves and think that they're ready for it, and then they get the opportunity and they just don't know what to do. Like you're saying with the five stair, you know, the kid thinks he's ready for it, thinks he can do it, and maybe sure he lands it after trying for a long time, but you know, you wouldn't have otherwise. You would have been able to do it on like the first or third try if you would have gone down the other route versus trying it a several thousand times, whatever it might be. I'm sure I'm over exaggerating here, but
No, I don't think you are. I don't think you are. And this is from experience, Eric. Like, you know, the most frustrating thing and what it tells me that he landed the fourth stair maybe a handful of times and felt like he was promoted to the fifth stair, you know? Like at
mhm,
one point he was doing exactly what he's doing now at the five stair, but you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
He was doing it to the three stair. Once he did it a few times, then he promoted himself to the fourth stair. And that's okay. All I'm saying is through wisdom and through experience, I knew that it's skateboarding is slow progression, but slow progression beats fast progression. Like you take it slow, you master the three, you master the four stair, you master the five stair, and you just keep progressing because you just mastered that muscle memory. And I have it here in my notes is like the thing that you're mastering, like the reason why I told him just to go a step down, like if he says that he could do the four stair, what it is, Eric, it's muscle memory to the point of like you understand how much airtime it is. Like you could feel it. Like you could feel how much airtime it is, and then you also can time, like, when you pop the board, you could actually hear the pop, and then you could anticipate the sound of landing, and your body gets used to the impact of landing. You know, the first few
Mhm.
times, your body doesn't know what to expect, but through muscle memory, you've walked your body through the process, and your body is familiar with what to expect. So if he's constantly successful at the 4 stair, the 5 stair will literally be no different with a slight adjustment.
Mhm.
And that's why I was trying to tell him, master the 4 stair, because it's gonna feel like the 5 stair is nothing compared to the anticipation of successfully doing the 4 stair.
Yeah, it's important to be able to, connect your mind with your body, because sometimes your
Exactly,
mind your
exactly.
mind can be ahead of your body, and that's especially when you get older. I feel this all
Mhm,
the time from people who are older that say, "My mind is thinks I can do things that my body can't," that they may have been able to used to be able to do,
yeah,
but they can't do it now because
yeah,
their mind and their body aren't in sync with each other. They're
mhm,
not in connection with each other. When you go ahead and, like, get up in the morning and your body's like, "Whoa,"
yeah,
but your mind is like, "Let's go."
mhm,
You gotta be able to be in sync with your body so that you know your limitations, but you also know your where you excel at, where you do well at with, connecting your mind and your body, because that's very important to know what to do and how to achieve it through that.
yeah, and I'm not expert, but I just thought I'd bring that onto the podcast because, maybe there's someone listening, and like you said, maybe they mentally feel like they're ready or they're capable of, or they can do it, and that's fine. But I just want you to kind of do like a reality check, just to kind of evaluate. And I want you guys to understand that, hey, your number hasn't been called yet, but when it is called, don't screw it up. Eric, I see here on your points, before we wrap this up, one of your points says fruits of a good plan. Do you want to kind of give us a shakedown on that as we close the podcast?
Yeah, so when I went out this weekend, my mom and I had put together a plan of what we wanted to see, do, in time periods, and everything that we wanted to visit in Louisville, Kentucky. Um, and my goodness, I don't think we missed we don't think we skipped a beat. And it was nice because we were able to see all these things because of a good plan that was put together and forethought, right? So if you have a good plan and you uh, construct what your trip is going to be like or what your life is going to be like, it can be very you can have a lot of success within a good plan, right? And if it falls together smoothly, of course, then there's obviously going to be benefits that come from that. Like, I probably wouldn't have been able to see a lot of things if I didn't have a good plan of, we need to be here at this time, do this at this time, leave here at this time, and I wouldn't have been able to experience the whole experience. So it it pays to have a good plan.
Yeah, for me, it starts with arriving early. Like, I always joke around with my fiance, and I tell her, like, I want to be early enough to get in a car accident to do the insurance paperwork and then still be early, you
Yeah.
know? And I know it's exaggerating, I know it's not realistic, but the idea is there. Where you're early, you're on time, and what you do is you just set yourself up for success. Like, you create room for error, and you're being considerate, and you're being honestly realistic. You're making room
Mhm.
for error. You're allowing mistakes to happen, but not on your watch. You know what I'm saying? Because you have time. You have time. You're ahead of the gun. You're not about to. I think the intention behind a good plan is like trying to minimize the
Uh-huh.
mistakes. Anything that could go wrong, let's
Yeah,
minimize
you
that.
said it best with setting yourself up for success. That's the biggest thing, is you're setting yourself up for success. If you don't have a good plan and you're not then you're not setting yourself up for the best opportunities and situations. Sometimes opportunities are taken away because of the lack of preparation. That's not there. And sometimes lack of preparation is just lack of motivation and determination. And those are easy fixes. Those are things that are very simple to make. With it's just a switch of the brain, right? You don't just um, it doesn't take a long time to get determination, motivation. It's one of those things that you kind of turn on in your head, if that makes sense. What about you though, Felix? Does it turn on for you, or is it a progressive for you to have motivation or determination?
It's progressive. Um, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Sometimes I wake up and it's just not there. But it's progressive. I think there's you just have to kind of put in the time to know yourself. What is it? You know, is it coffee? Is it a notepad? What gets you, what gets your motivation started? But it's progressive for me, Eric, for sure. Um, but one thing I refuse to do is I refuse to not, fight my way to that positive or that, that mental state. I don't like to have life control me, so I feel like doing the precautions, like making sure you're ahead of your schedule, making sure you're on time. Like I said, you're not leaving any room. You're minimizing mistakes, but it's progressive for me. I'm not gonna say I jump out of the bed motivated every day. Sometimes I'm a little down and out,
Mhm.
but I know myself. I know that if I start doing this and that, I'm on the right track to get my day going,
Right,
you know?
it's a flip of the switch of when you're not when your body and your mind is telling you like, "Oh, I'm just not feeling it today." That's
Yeah.
when you flip the switch and you say, "Okay, let's get into it. Let's move past what
Yep.
we're feeling. This is where you're connecting your this is the connection of what I mean by flipping the switch of mind and body, is that
Yeah.
you're telling, "Okay,
Yeah.
we can get through this. You just gotta do the one thing at a time," like we were talking about, step by step, break it down, simplify it, and connect make sure your body and your mind are on the same wavelength before you start going into your next task. And then that's why we're saying that the fruits of a good plan always start with the good preparation, and starts with determination and motivation, which is when you connect your mind and your body to be able to be in that mindset to be set yourself up for success.
Yeah, and honestly, that's just become the theme of this particular podcast is just that chemistry um between the mind and body. Almost yeah, I was gonna say like it's no, I'm not gonna say that. It's there though. That mind and body is there. It's essential to going about your life to I guess honestly, Eric, to developing a mindset about the day. Honestly, yes, we're a podcast and all, but it comes down to like today, new week, it's a new start, and that's why we're dropping a new
Mhm,
video. Um, we're here to build, the Mindtality podcast, the TMP. We're here to motivate, aka the positive podcast. And we're you guys, we are doing this as we go. We're not perfect. We don't want to be perfect. So don't get us misconstrued. Um, Again, like I said, we're developing this mind and body chemistry as we go. We're figuring out for ourselves what works best
mhm,
for us. You know, I'm sharing the reason why I shared the old people analogy with you guys is because that's literally it helped me have like a great week. Just seeing the old people and the three steps, first, the observation, then it's the reality check, and then it's kind of like what I got from
mhm,
them. But I'm sharing with you guys something that changed my life is just like understanding that how fast time goes, how fast time flies, and just having that mindset of like no regrets. We have time in life to develop ourselves, um and just the idea of like happiness isn't like this stage in life, but it's more of like the process of it, and that slow transition through life.
mhm. Absolutely. There's no set of instructions manuals that we're given when we have life. We have to figure it out as we go, and we can
Right.
do the best that we can with what we have. And that's the biggest thing that we have to do, is just do the best we can with the cards that we're dealt. You can decide to fold the cards, you can bet, you can do whatever, but you got to play your hand. and you gotta do the best of your ability with the hand that you've given, uh, because it's just something you need to do it. Like it's just how you win the prizes. You got to play the hand. So that's one of the biggest things in this, and from this podcast, like Rodolfo was saying, it's you get out what you put into it, and we're trying to put into a lot of positivity. We're trying to put into it just the things that we're learning every day. We're developing every single day. There's things that we lack on, our weaknesses, and we're working on it. And that's the thing we wanted to share with you, is that through our growth and through our learning curves, that we're trying to teach and share you with you guys, so you could see the mistakes that we've made or the things that we've done right, uh, or even just mindsets and things like that to deter it for your own self, right? It's You can never have too much material in life, right? But you can never have too much things to be
Mhm.
able to take away from what you're getting out of this. So, the more you learn, knowledge is power. I absolutely believe that with 100% knowledge is power.
Yeah, and before I just wrap up this podcast, Eric, I just wanted to mention like the reason why like if it came down to it, the reason why I wanted to create this podcast is to put myself in a position where I'm accountable to giving. Every week I'm giving something to the people. Whether they listen or not, I'm putting it out in the universe. I'm putting those vibes out. And it's almost like a cleansing to me, where it's like new week, new week, new start, new week, new start, new week, new start. And every week I'm going to be that person. I'm going to be there for somebody. I'm going to be there for myself. And I just wanted to put that positive energy out into the universe, and honestly, have a journal where people can kind of see my progression, um, moving forward in life. But that's going to do it due to time limitations. We just wanted to thank you guys for attending the Mindtality podcast. Again, you can listen to us on Spotify, on Apple Music, Google Play, Pandora, all those good platforms. I'm your host, Rodolfo Felix,
And co-host Eric, guys.
and we'll see you guys next week. But really quick, we do have a special guest next week, so this one will be live today on a Tuesday, and then next Monday we will have a special guest, a great church friend that I grew up with. He's finishing his master's in I believe it's queer theory. He got his bachelor's degree at ASU. I think it's Azusa, no, APU, Azusa Pacific University. I think it's Azusa Pacific, maybe Azusa University. I don't know. Great friend, very funny, very intelligent. He's doing great things. He's a social worker for the for a county. Super cool guy. He'll be on the podcast next week, and we'll see you guys then. Peace.
Peace.